Alrighty, it feels like a Wednesday, but I can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday. Welcome to The Sweat. She's excited. That's Jessie, Coffield. She's to my left. To her right, Emerson, Lotzia. We're happy to see that you're watching us right now on the internet.
And because it is the first Friday of 2019, let's hit you with the quad box right off the top. That's how we're doing it in 2019. Say what up to DK Live, Steve Buchanan, Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, and Ian Harditz of the Action Network.
You four make up our NFL panel today, so now would be the perfect time to play some Chase or Fade. Looking ahead to this weekend's 4-game wild card slate, Mrs. Coffield.
Starting with Andrew Luck, who finished 5th in the NFL in passing yards and has the best odds to finish with the most passing yards this weekend at plus 200. So Reed, Chase or Fade, he does just that against the Texans.
Yeah, I'm going to chase this. I've been on Andrew Luck this entire week. If you look at this Houston defense, giving up a ton of yards. If we take away that Jacksonville game, the last 4, they've given up over 350 yards through the air. And Andrew Luck is the guy that's been throwing it the most, right? We've seen that quite a bit this season. And he's been able to do it. And even Houston over the season has been giving up to about 260 yards, which is 29th in the NFL. So they give up a ton, and this is the guy to do it. This is the one spot. This is the highest implied game total. We think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think I would rather choose Luck. I know Watson has really good splits against the Colts here, especially this year, but I'm going to go with Luck here.
Steven, chase it or fade it?
Yeah, I like this one. You know, matchup-wise, it would probably go to Mitch Trubisky, but you just don't really see him having that type of game. He might not really need to, because I think the Bears will win this one, by a high margin here, but this is going to be like the one where you think most fantasy points are going to come out of it, and I think it's going to be a competitive one, and I think Luck and Watson are both going to have to continue to throw the ball all the way into the fourth quarter. When I was looking just for a comparison of who they think is second, Phillip Rivers was second, and I was honestly shocked by that because I feel like he has one of the worst matchups on the slate, so it's kind of interesting to see that he was second there to potentially throw the most passing yards this week. But yeah, this is such a great spot for Andrew Luck. You think Deshaun Watson's going to keep this game competitive for both sides? So yeah, I like this prop a lot.
Jeff, do you agree with Steve on this one?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to chase it too. I mean, you just look at the slate, and I think part of the reason is, you break down process of elimination. I mean, Seattle, Dallas, both run-heavy teams. You need an outlier game from Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson to be the highest passer on the slate. Nick Foles can do it, but he's got a really tough matchup, so that's a little bit unlikely. Trubisky's more of a runner. Lamar Jackson ain't going to do it. Phillip Rivers has a horrible matchup. Really comes down to Watson or Luck. And with Watson, out, Demaryius Thomas only has a banged-up DeAndre Hopkins. I think I'd take Luck here, especially at this price. Plus 200 isn't that bad. So, yeah, I'll chase this too.
Ian, the Action Network, what do you think?
4 for 4 chase. I'm with Jeff here from this process of elimination. I think it's Luck or Watson. But between those two, I mean, let's take the guy facing kind of the worst pass defense of the group. Texans have the #1 rush defense in DVOA in the entire league, but these cornerbacks aren't all that. Jonathan Joseph, 35 years old. He might run a 4.3 back in the early 2000s, but he can't keep up with T.Y. Hilton on that turf. Sharice Wright's on the other side. I mean, I think the corners are really the weak link of the Houston defense overall, and that's what we're trying to attack with this prop. So I'm fine going with Andrew Luck. I mean, I think T.Y. said it earlier this week, NRG Stadium, kind of the Colts home away from home. So I think they'll have plenty of chances to put up plenty of points, as these guys said, highest applied total and the highest pace game. So expecting fireworks.
All right, well, speaking of the Texans, Ian, Houston has the best odds to score the most total points this weekend at plus 400. Chase or fade, the Texans will be the top scoring offense on Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, I'm chasing this one. A lot of the same things I just said also apply. But the big thing here for Deshaun Watson is just that offensive line is so bad. I mean, he got pressured on 44% of his dropbacks this season. That was the highest in the league. But, Deshaun Watson's amazing. He was able to do away with that, still make plays regardless of that situation. But now he's facing the Colts' 29th ranked defense and adjusted sack rate. So they're not great at getting the quarterback. And what we've seen from Watson lately is a much healthier version of him. Been having a lot more design rush attempts in recent weeks, finally passing that 25 pass attempts per game mark on a consistent basis once again. So, highest implied matchup of the week. I think the Texans are set up better than the Colts, and I'm picking the Texans this week as well, so might as well pick the higher point total.
Jeff, you on the chase?
I'm not. I'm the complete opposite here, Ian. I'm on the Colts. I think the Colts are going to win this game. I think their defense is a little underrated. Their pass rush has been hot or cold all year, but they have shown up in spots. And I think, again, I think they're just going to get – I think even the weakest pass rushes get amplified against Houston because Deshaun Watson, not only does he have a bad O-line, but he holds onto the ball too long. And he's going to have to do everything in this game, in my opinion, if the Texans are going to win. And I just don't think it's going to be enough. So, obviously, if I don't think Houston's going to win the game, they can't be the highest scoring team on the slate. I also think you could see one of Seattle or Dallas have a really big game. I think those offenses, in the right circumstances, could put up some big weeks. So I'm going to fade Houston here. The price isn't bad, I guess, but I like Indy to win. So,
Reed, the Texans will be the top scoring offense on Wild Card Weekend. Chase or fade it now, please.
No, I'm fading it. I'm with Jeff here, making really good points. All the points that I was going to make. Number one in pace of play, and I think the Colts are going to win this game. I'm with him on this, right? That offensive line for Houston, and to what Ian's point, I just don't trust Bill O'Brien, especially during the playoffs. If you want to do a power ranking of all of these coaches, or if you just want to just look at them, look at what they're able to do. If you look at Bill O'Brien, this guy kicks field goals when he shouldn't, and I just don't like that. In this matchup, especially for this prop, and Indianapolis scoring 27 points, averaging 27 points, over the season. This is going to be the Colts game. So I'm with Jeff here.
That was the hottest take of the week, Reed. You agreeing with me saying I made good points?
No.
Yeah, the sweatometer is exploding.
Yes, it is.
Low blood sugar.
And Reed is a little fiery today. I can't confirm. Steve, go ahead, partner.
I don't think it's going to be either team, honestly. I think the Bears are in a sneaky spot here. Well, not really sneaky because obviously we know how bad the Eagles' defense is. I mean, they can't stop anybody. There's so many different ways that the Bears can put up points in this matchup. Allen Robinson, fantastic spot. Tariq Cohen, another great spot. Jordan Howard, he can rush for 100 yards to get 9 DK fantasy points. A typical week for him. He's like another Derrick Henry. I can't stand that guy. But I just think the Bears have so many ways that they can beat the Eagles this week. And look, I think the Eagles can make it somewhat competitive. I mean, they're going to have to keep chucking the ball in this game. I think they're going to keep the pressure on, but they're not going to be able to stop this Bears defense. But the Bears can do absolute work against this Eagles secondary, against their defense. Like I said, there's so many different ways for them to do that. And the thing with the Texans, too, is if they're going to have to beat the Colts, they're certainly not going to do it on the ground. The Colts' run defense has been fantastic, and they don't have that passing down back they can go to. So Watson has to keep chucking the ball. And like Ian alluded to begin with, that offensive line is really not that good. So can we really, hope that Watson can get all the points? Maybe. But I think the Bears, all around, they're in good spots here. I like them a lot this week.
Steve, Dak Prescott will go for his first NFL playoff win on Saturday against the Seahawks. So looking at player props, his over-under for passing yards is 239.5, while Russell Wilson's is set at 230.5. So chase or fade, Dak has more passing yards than Wilson in their wildcard showdown.
Yeah, I'll chase this one. This is such a hard game to land on, honestly, because both quarterbacks realistically can throw for under 200 yards. Like, that is a real possibility. And we've seen both of them do that when they face each other in week 3. But I think it's fair to say that both of these teams are vastly different from when they first met at the beginning of the season. But what you like about Dak in this matchup is that, and Jeff said it earlier this week, the matchup for Amari Cooper is just so good this week. Like, that's one of those matchups you salivate over going up against Shaq Griffin. He has just been absolutely horrendous in coverage. He's allowing over 13 yards per reception on the year. So, like, that alone really makes you like Dak in this game because Wilson, we haven't seen it. We've seen it a number of times. We've thrown for under 200 yards in matchups. So I think I like Dak here better in this spot.
Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on Dak too. I mean, there's some concerns. The Seahawks did shut him down the first time they met. It's, they play more zone defense. I've heard rumblings about that, but I think Dak is playing a little bit better here towards the end of the year. I think the addition of Amari Cooper, and when you're looking at upside between these two, they're both very, boom or bust. It's like 190 yards or it's like 300 yards. So Dak has been the one to go over 300 yards more this season. I think he's just got a bit more of an explosive pass game. They take a few more shots downfield with guys like Michael Gallup, obviously the addition of Amari Cooper. So all things considered, you look at this prop, I think I'd rather take a shot with Dak here, although realistically, it's probably going to come down to game flow. If the Seahawks get behind early, Russell Wilson will be chugging it more. So it's a kind of a tough one to figure, to be honest.
Ian, chase or fade, Dak has more passing yards than Wilson.
I'm chasing it. I like going after these props that seem to be kind of slanted towards season long rates instead of kind of recent history rates. These guys are talking about it, but these are new offenses than what we've saw from at the beginning of the season. Since the Cowboys added Amari Cooper, Prescott's averaging 274 passing yards per game. A lot of that's inflated. You know, he had some big kind of pop-off games, but he still surpassed that 242 mark in 6 of 9 games. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson's only gone over 240 in 4 games all season. So Prescott's just shown the higher passing yardage ceiling lately with Dak. And like Steve was saying, I mean, Shaq Griffin and Trey Flowers, the outside cornerbacks, the guys you want to attack. So I think the Cowboys will be more than happy to do that. And I mean, it could go under here, obviously, but yeah, I'll take Dak over Russ.
Reed, take us home.
Yeah, 4 for 4 is Seattle, right? Second lowest pass attempts on the road. Even though Dallas doesn't pass a lot when they're at home, you just can't trust Wilson. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging under 200 yards, I think about 183. So I'm with these guys.
Looking at some of the game parlays here, one of the better payouts would come from the Seahawks covering the 2.5-point spread and the game hitting the over. That would be 43.5. So chase your fade that Seattle can go into Dallas, win this game, and put up enough points to go over the total. Reed.
Yeah, that's what's up. I mean, obviously it pays out because it's hard to see this happening. I think with what we've been saying and how Seattle's going to win is they're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball quite a bit. And if you look at these teams, both of them pace of play, they're in the bottom third. So I see them winning. I like Seattle in this spot, but I just can't see this game going over. Like we've mentioned, right, it's tough to put our finger on where this is going to go. A lot has to do with game flow. These guys are playing a little bit above what their season average has been. I just can't see it with these two teams. I could easily see this being under, but Seattle taking this one.
Jeff, your feelings on this, please share them with me.
Well, I mean, I said yesterday I really like the over in the spot, and I'll stick to that. I mean, the last 3 road games for Seattle have gone well over this number. Their defense just hasn't shown up as well on the road. If you like Seattle, it makes sense. I'd personally rather take Dallas in the over if I was going to do this because I still like Dallas at home. Dak's played better at home, a lot of other reasons. So I like taking the over for sure. If you like the Seahawks, I think it's fine, but I'd probably rather take Dallas on the spread, just to cover the points and the over.
Steve, what makes you think Seattle can go into Dallas, win this game, and put up enough points to go over the total?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
I mean, look, I'm a sucker for a good parlay, but this is not one that I'd be interested in. I mean, I have more faith in this game getting the over than I think I do in Seattle covering the spread here. And look, Seattle has been great when they've been favored. They're 5-2 when favored, especially at home, 7-1 on the season when playing at home as well. So I have no doubt this game is going to be competitive. I think the over can definitely hit here, but I just think there's more ways for Dallas to beat Seattle than Seattle to beat Dallas in this spot. You know, one thing that's concerning is that obviously Dallas's run defense has not been as good to close the season as you'd like, but I just think there's too many ways that the Cowboys can beat Seattle in this game, so I like them better here, so I don't think that would end up working out there for you.
And how big of a sucker are you for a good little parlay here, including this one?
I don't know why we're messing around with these 2.5 points. Just give me the Seahawks money line. You guys think Dak Prescott's taking down Russ Wilson?
Yep.
Seahawks haven't had a one-and-done exit since 2004, people. Pete Carroll doesn't lose in the first round. Love him or hate him. But, look, I think a couple of other things we got to remember. Cowboys didn't have Amari Cooper in that first matchup. Seahawks didn't have Doug Baldwin either. And Baldwin's been the much better receiver in recent history. I'm not saying he makes the same impact Cooper has in the Cowboys offense, but this both teams have improved, I think, since that game. And, Steve mentioned this Cowboys run defense recently. Maybe that's sticking out in my mind a little too much, but Marlon Mack and the Colts just ran all over them recently. So I think the Cowboys rush defense is a little bit deceiving. Could see a little more points scored in here. Maybe they're thinking. So I'm not I don't mind the over, and I really like the Seahawks money line.
All right, that'll do for now. We're going to do some price checking and look at some showdown picks with you guys coming up.
All right, NHL opening face-off, also on the rundown. But first, it's NBA pick and roll with a familiar face in the house after this.
Hey, I'm Tara Lenazak, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. James Harden was added again Thursday night, leading the Houston Rockets to a come-from-behind 135-134 overtime win over the Golden State Warriors, and making some history in the process. Harden had a monster game, putting up 44 points, 10 rebounds, and 15 assists that he capped off with the game-winning shot in overtime. It was his 5th straight 40-point game, joining Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Elgin Baylor, Kobe Bryant, and Allen Iverson as the only other players to accomplish this feat. Harden is leading the NBA with a career-high 33.6 points per game and is in one of the most prolific offensive stretches in NBA history. Rockets GM Daryl Morey said, You could argue for him as the best offensive player of all time. I don't know about all that, but he's certainly the clear-cut favorite for league MVP right now. And more importantly for Houston, he's making them believe that this could be the year they finally take down Golden State and reach the finals. We'll see if the Beard can pull it off come playoff time, but for right now, NBA fans can just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Welcome back to The Sweat. We're joined by the Action Network's Matt LaMarca and an old friend, Pierce Dietrich. Long time no see, buddy.
Yeah, I ended my contract holdout.
It's all right.
I got Mayo money, but I had to settle for Steve Buchanan money.
Oh, but you're back, and we love it.
Stranger danger. Oh, hey, Steve-O. Good to see you, partner. All right, now you can get off the screen. All right, what do you know, though? You are joining us, Pierce, for basketball on your Sweat debut. So I'll lay it down for you here. We're playing NBA pick and roll. We give you two options. You pick the one you like best. So like Russell Westbrook, with more than 60 fantasy points in each of his last two starts, he's going to cost you 11-3 at Portland tonight. Matt, do you want to pay up for him or save some cash and maybe go Bradley Beal, who will cost you more than $2,000 less? The John Wallace Wizards take on the Heat in Miami.
Yeah, I think both of these guys are interesting. If I was going for cash games, I would target Bradley Beal here. He's shown a really nice floor with Wall out of the lineup, at least 40 points in every game this season. But I think Westbrook is a really interesting tournament play. I don't think people are going to be on him. I think they're going to look more at guys like Giannis or Karl Anthony Towns. But Westbrook scored 60 points in his last game, making 3 of 20 shots. Oh. You know how hard that is to do?
That's like James Harden-esque.
No, Harden can't shoot that bad. But the thing is, like, Westbrook's not a great shooter, but he's obviously going to improve on his shooting numbers going forward. He shot the ball sub 20% from the field 3 times in the past 2 weeks, and he's still been getting us right around 60 fantasy points. So I think if you're looking for like a somewhat contrarian play with some upside, I think Westbrook's a great play tonight.
Pierce, do you make it rain for Westbrook? Do you save for Beal? Or if you have a third option out there, feel free to go with that.
Well, it's always Westbrook. We're looking at a guy that can break the slate. Beal, like you mentioned, he's got a floor, but missing out on Beal is probably not going to kill you in GPPs. But if Westbrook goes off, which he's capable of, as you mentioned, 3 of 20, and he's not making any three-pointers. If a couple of threes fall, and I know Westbrook's not the greatest shooter of all time, but he's not a 3 for 20 guy either. He can score definitely more points than that. He's stacking the stuff in the stat sheet and everything else. We've got a pretty competitive game against Portland. So it's got to be Westbrook. And I like the idea of GPPs because point guard is a pretty thick position. You got a lot of different plays that you can go with. Shooting guard, not so much. So I think more people definitely will go towards Beal. And Westbrook's so expensive, but if he goes off, you're definitely ahead of the field.
Rookie sensation Luka Doncic is 7,400 as the Mavs are in Boston tonight. Hey, Pierce, do you go with him or do you save $300 on Aaron Gordon, who has 40-plus fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 starts? His Magic going to be in Minnesota to take on the T-Wolves.
I'm going to go with Gordon, and the matchup is there, and you've got a Minnesota team that's pretty thin. I know if you look at last year, that's going pretty deep, but he was pretty much carried the Magic, Gordon did last year. A very similar matchup in terms of what the teams are rolling out on the court. Rebounds are going to be there against the Minnesota team. He's going to get the action. The thing that worries me with the Mavericks is they're going to spread the ball out. You got a lot of people who could score, and it's not really the greatest game. I just don't see the upside there. For me, it's Gordon, especially at the position. Again, there's not a lot of people to roster at small forward or power forward. Gordon, it's a little expensive, though, and I know a lot of people aren't going to want to pay up that much for Aaron Gordon, which is pretty good for you in GPPs.
Matt, agree, disagree? What's up?
I like Gordon as well, but I think you could make the argument that he's actually underpriced. Like, his salary is $300 cheaper now than it was at the start of the season. He hasn't had a great year, but he still is very capable of producing, virtually across the board in every category. And I love his matchup versus the Timberwolves. If you look at their defensive numbers since acquiring Robert Covington, when he's been off the floor, they've allowed over 112 points per 100 possessions. So just really, really poor defensively. Orlando only has an implied team total of like 105 points. I think they go way over that tonight. So I'm in on Gordon.
All right, Yusuf Nurkic delivering a historic night his last time out, becoming the first player in NBA history to have 20-plus points, 20 rebounds, 5+ assists, blocks, and steals. So let me do the math really quick.
You can do math.
That's nearly 83 fantasy points. Tonight, he'll cost you $8K against the Thunder. So, Matt, will history repeat itself, or is Suns rookie DeAndre Ayton a safer play at 7-8 as Phoenix hosts the Clippers?
I will go out on the record and say that he will not have a 20 by 20 by 5 by 5 by 5 game.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. I like Ayton here. Nurkic is in a much tougher spot tonight against Steven Adams and the Thunder. You know, they've been one of the best defensive teams all season, particularly on the interior. Meanwhile, Ayton has just been ridiculously good recently, and he's got a cupcake matchup against the Clippers. So I'm saving the money and going with DeAndre Ayton.
All right, Pierce, I did the math. What do you think? Who are you going with?
Well, let's imagine you didn't do the math and he didn't have 83 fantasy points. Would we be having this conversation?
I do not think we would.
Recency bias that's even pushing this. As we mentioned, Nurk has a tough matchup. Now, if you want to play narrative street, Nurkic does not really get along very well with OKC. Nearly got into a fight last year with Steven Adams, but I don't know how you can statistically quantify that if that's going to make him put up another 83 fantasy points.
I don't think Nurkic likes anybody.
Yeah. The matchup says play Ayton. Everything is in his favor. He's averaging 44 fantasy points over the last 10. You play Ayton.
All right, well, let's find some value maybe.
That works for me, young lady.
Got it. Okay, Pierce. Gordon Hayward went off against the Timberwolves in his last start to the tune of 44, almost 45 DK points. A season high for him. So he's just 5,400 against Dallas. Can Hayward keep it up, or do you look to the other side of the floor at someone at the same price range? Mavs forward Harrison Barnes is 5,600 and is averaging 30.5 fantasy points per game over his last 9 games. Pretty consistent.
Well, just said you should ignore the recency bias, and I think you should with Hayward because he's not going to go out there and shoot 14 of 18 every single night. But that being said, the Celtics are without Kyrie. The Celtics might be without Marcus Morris. I don't know if we've got that information yet. So it seems like his usage is going to be there. I don't know if the usage is going to be there on the other side of the court. I think Rozier is going to be everywhere tonight. Everyone wants to play him, but I'm going to go with, in this argument, Gordon Hayward. And I don't really like it that much because it feels like I'm chasing points from his last game. But given the alternatives, I'm going to go with Hayward.
Matt, what are you doing here?
I feel exactly the same way as Pierce. Like, Hayward has played Minnesota twice this season and is averaging like 50 DraftKings points per game against them. Other than that, he has been pretty awful. But if you look at their injury situation in Boston, it's hard not to pick Hayward in this matchup. Like, you know, no Marcus Morris, no Kyrie Irving. Hayward should see significant increase in playing time off the bench. And Harrison Barnes is just not fun to play. You know, he's like a high fiber diet. Like, it might be good for you in the long run, but like nobody's excited to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, does that mean he's regular? Like he's contributing consistently?
Yeah.
He has been consistent. I mean, I'm not going to argue that point, but again, like, I'll live on the wild side.
All right, so Harrison Barnes, a full fiber diet. I will keep that in mind.
Got it.
Good job, guys. Hang tight. When Need You for Tears of Joy coming up. But for all of you guys watching at home, listen up. We have an exciting event to tell you about. If you're in the tri-state area this January 11th through the 13th, DraftKings will be hosting its first ever sports betting national championship event to crown, imagine this, the first ever DraftKings sports betting national champion in Jersey City, New Jersey.
That's a lot of firsts.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and you could have the chance to compete for the grand prize of
$1 million.
So for more information, head on over to DraftKings.com.
Okay, you got all that? Well, we've got our NFL panel joining us in a few minutes.
Right after we hear from Adam Kaufman, who's breaking down the odds for the college football national championship game between Clemson and Alabama with a very special guest.
Alabama and Clemson getting ready to clash in college football's national championship game Monday night. I'm Adam Kaufman looking at some of the betting lines with Ben Rassa. He is a contributor to Osmo.com, also a frequent guest to the Pat Mayo Experience, and Pat would love to know that he's getting a shout out here, Ben. Bama's favored by 5.5 points, so what do you think of the spread?
You know, I think it's pretty fair, to be honest. We're obviously going to dive into it. I'm on the Clemson side, so, you know, I think it should be a little lower personally, you know, maybe in the a field goal range, +3, +3.5 for Clemson. But I can see, obviously, Bama being the favorite, just coming off just an unbelievable year for them.
Crimson Tide ranks second in the nation in points per game. The Tigers fourth. So projected line total 60.5. Is that actually too low?
You know, I think it's interesting. Obviously, Clemson's missing a big piece. Dexter Lawrence not going to play. But, you know, games like this, I have a feeling both teams do try to establish the run. The clock will be moving. You know, we could see a big special teams play, maybe an interception or something to pump up that total. But I think it's pretty fair again. I actually lean to the under. I think this game probably ends in the 20s for both teams.
How about the money line? Clemson plus 180, Alabama minus 225. Is there any value to playing the money line over trying to go against the spread?
For me, I honestly think there is. You know, I don't want to take too aggressive a stand, but I think Clemson wins the game. I know that's against the grain, but, you know, they're about plus 180. That means, you know, if they're winning this game more than like 35% of the time, you're getting some good value there. And I view it truly as a toss-up. You know, I don't know if we know truly how good Clemson is. They played somewhat of a soft schedule with the ACC, but I'll take a stab at, you know, don't even give me the points. Give me the plus 180 with Clemson.
A player prop I always enjoy in games like this. Who's going to score the first touchdown? So looking at the odds, which player has the edge?
So I'm going to go, you know, sticking with Clemson. I'll take T. Higgins. You know, he's one of their big wide receivers, giant guy, red zone threat. You know, obviously, can it be the running back, of course, or Bama could score first. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Trevor Lawrence take some shots early in the game. And that guy, like I said, he's 6'4", dynamic, catches a ton of touchdowns. I think Bama could really struggle defending him. So, you know, you're getting 10, 11 to 1. I've seen it, you know, at some of the books. So I'll take a stab there and hope that Clemson can strike first.
All right, Ben Rossa from Osmo.com, also a big Clemson guy. Thanks, man. Enjoy the game.
Appreciate it. Take care.
As promised, we're back with our NFL panel. DK Live, Steve Buchanan, and the Action Network's Ian Harditz, and we are getting wild.
Wild for Wild Card Weekend. So will these players return value on their salaries this weekend? First up is the highest priced quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He's going to cost you $6,700 smackaroos. Would you pay it, Ian?
Absolutely. Right now in our Fantasy Labs models, Watson actually has the highest projected plus minus of all quarterbacks. That just means we're projecting him basically for more points above his salary implied total than any other guy. And it makes sense now. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but he's finally getting healthy. And look, per ESPN's Mike Clay, weeks 1 through 15, he only had 24 designed rushing attempts. The last 3 weeks, he's already had 17. So they're finally kind of using him the fullest of his skill set. You know, he can run, he can throw deep. Watson can do everything. And now he's got this Colts defense that, you know, on their best day, sure, they can get after the passer a little bit, but for the season as a whole, they haven't been very good at getting against the passer, and that's not good when you're facing an offensive line as bad as the Texans. If you give Watson any chance, might be one chance too many. So I'm going to load up on Watson this week.
Okay, Steven. Ian's got me sold on Watson. Can you unsell me?
Probably not. And I do like to mention I'm glad Adam dressed up for that last segment, rolled out of bed, and came to the studio. But look, I think no doubt you pay up for Watson in this spot. I mean, there was a period of the time during the middle of the season where he was averaging about 24 pass attempts per game. And at that time, he was pretty expensive relative to, you know, what he was doing or not doing in those games. But since weeks 12, he's averaging 34 pass attempts over that span, 271 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns. Like Ian was mentioning, he's rushing a lot more, has 3 rushing touchdowns in that span as well. And, you know, in a game that we all expect to be the highest scoring of the 4 games this weekend, yeah, absolutely. 6,700 is not a lot to spend up for somebody you expect to be chucking the ball the entire game.
All right, what about running back Marlon Mack for $6K? Is he going to return the value here, Steve?
Good question.
No, I'm not crazy about Mack at all in this spot. I mean, if anything, I think Hines is a sharp play here at 3,500. He's getting a healthy dose of targets, 21 in his last 4 games of the season. Look, Mack is in a tough spot against this Texans defense. He's only had 33 rushing yards when he faced him in week 14. He wasn't in that first game that they had, and he only averages about 2 targets a game. I mean, yeah, honestly, he's a good candidate to get a rushing touchdown. The Colts are going to be in the red zone in this game, and he might sneak one in there because he accounts for 50% of their red zone rushes, but you're not going to beat the Texans on the ground. That's not how you're going to beat them in this game, so I don't see a scenario where Mack returns on the $6K salary. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I think the guy you got to play in this matchup is Hines.
Ian, Steve wants nothing to do with Marlon Mack. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm with him here. I mean, I think Nyheim Hines at 3,500 is definitely a sharp play. Just straight up, I take Lamar Miller at 4,900 over Mack because at least with Miller, you know he's going to be on the field for 70% of the snaps. I mean, look, Mac's good for his, 10, 15 touch floor, which is great. Not a lot of running backs offer that, but number one defense in rush DVOA. As Steve's saying, why would the Colts want to just run at J.J. Watt and Clowney all game? I mean, that's not in their best interest. Go attack those cornerbacks, and that's not setting up well for Mac at all. And if we do get in this high-paced game that, the Vegas lines seem to be implying, the pace seems to be implying, then in that case, we could see a ton of Nyheim Hines on pass downs and maybe even Jordan Wilkins. I mean, he's been playing enough of the snaps that, expect to see him out there for at least a carry or two. And I don't know if Mac's done enough the entire kind of season. And we haven't seen them just fully give him that job. So I'm not sure why he would get that now. And, such a tough matchup. I'll go a little bit cheaper, maybe a little bit lesser owned, and maybe even more value.
Steve, you were making all sorts of weird noises. Would you not take Miller over Mac?
The only thing with Miller is that he just doesn't catch anything. So, you really need him to go off in one of those 100 rushing yard games, at least a touchdown. So there's a lot of things that worry you about Miller. But, I mean, I definitely see it. It's definitely a better matchup than Mac has. Don't roster that bum this week.
All right. Well, Ian, at wide receiver, we've got Amari Cooper checking in at 7,500. You mentioned earlier the Cowboys didn't have him in their first meeting with the Seahawks this season. So is he worth that price tag now?
Yeah, definitely. I think, we want to look at Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, who's only at 3,600 this week. These Seahawks outside cornerbacks, the guys you want to go after, both of them rank outside of PFF's top 75 cornerbacks this year. And the Seahawks defense started pretty strong first 10, 12 weeks, but we've kind of seen that, Legion of Boom secondary that no longer exists start to get exposed in some of the better matchups they've gone up against. I love Cooper 7,500. I don't think that's much of a debate, but I will stress, go Gallup over Cole Beasley, because Gallup, you're getting those deep balls, you're getting the more fantasy-friendly average target depth, and Beasley in 4 career games against the Seahawks has 69 scoreless yards. I mean, he just hasn't been able to get anything going against that defense, and with Cooper involved, he hasn't kind of had the same focus or upside in the offense. So give me Cooper and give me a ton of Michael Gallup this week.
Steve, I'm looking at Cooper's game log here. I mean, had that monster game in week 14, but 15, 16, 17 failed to hit double-digit points here.
Yeah, you don't want to look at his game log because you just want to go by that the week that's coming up, because anytime you look at Amari Cooper's game log, you just don't even end up taking him. I mean, here's the problem, though, with how this week sets up. Even if he doesn't return value, I don't really know how you can fade him in this spot. And the reason being is because of the health uncertainty of T.Y. Hilton. So we have DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, he's fine. He's good to go. But when you get after Hopkins, it's really Cooper and Hilton. And as scary as it is to say, Cooper's kind of the safer option this week just because he's healthy. I mean, we don't know what Hilton's going to do with that ankle injury, and Hilton's playing in the first game. So if you lock him in, you can't late swap him out because he's the first game on this slate this week. But as I mentioned earlier, and Jeff's mentioned, kind of really drove it home this week, that matchup against Shaq Griffin is really one you want to target against. He's been so poor in coverage this season. But again, you really got to pick the right guy here, because if you're trying to get Ezekiel Elliott in your lineup, if you're trying to get Luck or Watson, Hilton and Cooper, it starts to get a little dicey for the rest of your lineups here. So Cooper's really got to go off here in this matchup. He definitely has a good matchup to do so, and I think he can return value. But I mean, saying anything is a good thing with Amari Cooper as a given is not something you can say.
Finally, Steven, there's Trey Burton for 4,400. Yay or nay?
Nay. Trey Burton. I mean, I'll say this though. This is actually one area that the Eagles are actually pretty good defensively. I mean, opposing teams haven't had a touchdown against them, tight ends that is, since week 7 against the Panthers. They're averaging just 43 yards per game. Burton gets a decent amount of looks in the red zone. He has an 18% target share, but there's really only he's only tight end that really gets any looks for the Bears, but there's really only one tight end that you're looking at this week, at least I am. It's Eric Ebron. He's only $800 more. And I think that you have to figure out a way to get him into your lineup. I mean, the tight end position on this slate is absolutely brutal. There's really no one to pick from. And don't go into that Blake Jarwin crap. He's not going to do anything like that yesterday. And it's it's a trap play. Nothing you want. No Blake Jarwin this week. Literally, it's just Ebron. So forget Burton. Bum.
Ian, yay or nay on Burton? And if it's a nay, who else are you interested in?
Trey Burton revenge game? Nah, I'm not buying it this week. I was higher on him when earlier in the week when we had Taylor Gabriel, Allen Robinson, and Anthony Miller dealing with injuries, but all those guys are going to play. As Steve said, Malcolm Jenkins with the Eagles done a great job locking down tight ends all year. You want to attack those cornerbacks, and Chicago offense, I mean, when Trubisky's under center, each of A-Rob, Tariq Cohen, Burton, and Gabriel have a target share between 15 and 20%. So just really hard to know who's going to kind of go off in any week. And because of that, the upside isn't there really for him. So I'm fine. Ebron's the chalk play. He's got the best matchup and all that, but I'm fine going down. I won't say Blake Jarwin, but I will say Mark Andrews, because look, the Ravens are using him as their big play threat. Lamar Jackson, I know it's been bad as a consistency of the pass game, but only Andrews and Willie Snead have gone over 50 yards since Jackson started off under center. And Andrews has done it on 3 separate occasions. So he splashed a little bit. He was Baker Mayfield's tight end 1 at Oklahoma. He's more of a kind of glorified slot receiver anyway. So he gives you some of that similar Burton upside. I think they're going to see similar target counts because of how unpredictable the Bears' target share is. So I'm fine going a little bit cheaper if you don't want to pay all the way up for Ebron, because I think the certainty is about the same.
It's Friday, my dudes. Be good this weekend. Have fun. Be safe. Reed and Jeff will have NFL. You're welcome. You're very welcome. I'm always concerned about you. So Reed and Jeff will have NFL Sunday Showdown picks coming up. But first, we got Nolan Kelly here to help you with those NHL lineups for this evening.
Tara Lanazak here with the DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Information has been scarce when it comes to offers for marquee free agents Bryce Harper and Manny Machado this offseason, but now it seems we have something a little more concrete.
Can't hear anything.
Bob Nightingale of USA Today is reporting that the Chicago White Sox have made a serious offer to Machado worth around $200 million. Machado and his camp were reportedly looking for something in the $300 million range, so don't expect the slugger to jump all over this. Nightingale also notes that if Machado had his wish and the offers were comparable, he'd prefer to sign with his favorite childhood team, the New York Yankees. New York's interest at the moment seems lacking as they just picked up Troy Tulowitzki as infield insurance. As for Harper, he too reportedly has an offer on the table from the Washington Nationals. Jim Bowden of The Athletic reports that the Nats' last offer to the free agent slugger was much more than the initial 10-year, $300 million contract they offered him at the end of the regular season. Neither Machado or Harper are expected to sign anytime soon, but with spring training only 6 weeks away, hopefully these reported offers light a fire under the parties involved.
Welcome back to The Sweat. This show is live right now, and if you're tuning in for hockey advice, we've got the perfect man for it. Say hello, everyone, to Nolan Kelly of awesomeo.com. Hey, bud.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
We can hear you now.
Awesome.
I got
I guess
you.
we're going to have to speed this up, but let's go. I'm ready.
Here we go.
Perfect,
so,
dude.
You know the drill, Nolan. It's NHL opening face-off when you choose between the top 2 options at each position, like at center, where Dallas's Tyler Seguin has seemingly responded to criticism from his owner with 17.5 DK points in his last 2 games combined. That's pretty good. He'll cost you $6,900 against the Caps tonight. Do you like Seguin or Pierre-Luc Dubois of Columbus, who is coming off a 2-goal, 2-assist performance and will cost $600 cheaper at Carolina?
So for me, I'm going Seguin here. Part of my reasoning, number one, is that Washington gives up a ton of high danger chances. They're a little bit less on the road, but still they're averaging, the top 2 lines on Washington are averaging somewhere between 10 to 15 high danger chances against. Seguin should see a lot of them. As well in stacks, Jamie Benn is out for the Stars tonight, so it looks like Vlad Nichushkin is going to go in his spot. He's the bare min on DraftKings. That means a stack with him and Radulov is really cheap. I like the Stars tonight. They're on back-to-backs, the Capitals are on back-to-backs. Whereas if you're going with Columbus, Pierre-Luc Dubois and his line mates are all priced up, and Cam Atkinson's $7,900, so that's almost Nathan McKinnon territory. Give me Tyler Seguin.
All right, man, in the wing department, Victor Arvidsson of the Preds has 3 goals in his last 2 games. He's priced at $7K visiting the Red Wings, or would you pay $300 more for Gabriel Landeskog as the Avs host the Rangers?
So if I'm using Landeskog, I'm using him in stacks with McKinnon and Rantanen, and I think that's a great spot tonight. They're obviously the best line on the night. I would not solo play Landeskog. I just think, like, generally speaking, he's so highly correlated to his other line mates, there's absolutely no point in taking him as a solo play. They have given up their experiment of taking him off that top line. Tyson Jost is back on the second line. It never really actually happened. So if I'm taking a solo play, I'm going Arvidsson. He's probably less correlated with his top line mates than Johansson. and Hartman. He's got a plus matchup against Detroit, who gives up a large chunk of fantasy points to opposing top lines. So I will take Iverson, and I think it's a great play as well as a contrarian play because I don't think a lot of people are going to have him.
Now on the blue line, Chris Letang will cost you $6,200 with Pittsburgh hosting Winnipeg. Or you can pay up for John Carlson at $6,300 as his Caps visit Dallas. So take your pick, Nolan.
I'm going to go with Letang here. Basically, my only reasoning is just that this Winnipeg-Pittsburgh game has a really high total. It's 6.5. It's the only total on the night that isn't at 6. Letang correlates well with the power play 1. I mean, Carlson's a really good play as well. I just think with Washington only implied for 3.1 goals for, and these other games implied for more, I'm going to take my chances with the higher projected offense on the night and go with Letang and try and correlate him with some other Penguins.
All right, as for the netminders on tonight's 7-game slate, we got Columbus's Sergei Bobrovsky is on the road in Carolina, but the Hurricanes played last night in Philly, so could he be a good play at a slate high 8,200 or would you rather save some money with Matt Murray at 7-8? He's at home hosting the Jets, looking for his 7th straight win at home.
Yes, we at Osmo.com, we don't have either of these goalies graded out very well, which is surprising because Sergei Bobrovsky is going up against the Hurricanes, and generally that's like auto play for me. Just punch in the goaltender who's facing the Hurricanes. Hurricanes generate a ton of shots, and they don't finish their chances. So that's a recipe for goaltending success. That being said, Murray is not exactly in a great matchup either at home to the high-powered Jets offense. So if I had to choose between the two, I'm going to go with Bobrovsky. He should see a lot of shots tonight. Columbus is the better team, and he has a pretty solid chance at a win.
All right, now before you go, how about a slate-approved pick, your lock for tonight's slate?
My lock for tonight's slate. So I'm probably I'm a bit of a correlation player, so my lock would probably just be to put in Colorado 1, to find some really unique stacks to pair with them, some cheaper stacks, so that you're not being you're going to have some differentiation in your lineups, and then and just sort of try and work in some defensemen. If you have some lower price stacks to pair with Colorado 1, then you can pay up for some of the high price defensemen. As far as low price defensemen go, if you want somebody super cheap, I've kind of got my eye on Nick Jensen on Detroit. He's $2,600. His ice time for the past few games is up in the 28 minute mark, and that is too cheap for a first pairing defenseman getting that much ice time, even though he doesn't have power play correlation.
All right, good stuff, brother. Enjoy your night and weekend. We've got Sunday Showdown picks around the NFL still ahead.
Plus, tears of joy in the NBA. But first, it's a Francesa Friday with Adam Kaufman, a special Wildcard edition.
Everyone's favorite day of the week, at least mine anyway. Francesa Friday. Mike Francesa joins me from New York, talk show host on WFAN. Mike, let's start with football. We're going to break down the individual games during our weekend chats, but for now, just kind of bigger picture thoughts. Who's your Super Bowl matchup?
I think there's a lot of live teams. I think New Orleans will be very tough in their building. If they weren't in their building, I don't think they'd win. But in their building, I think they're very tough. They're very experienced with Sean and with Breeze. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes in any way. You're going to have to beat them on the field. I think in the AFC, the Chargers are a very dangerous team, but it's very hard to do on the road. I'd like to say Kansas City and New Orleans, but that's obviously the chalk pick. I don't like doing that. So maybe I'll go. I don't think it's New England's year. I think the AFC is wide open. Maybe something surprising in the AFC and New Orleans in the NFC, something like that.
You know, on those Steelers, instead of demolishing other teams, it looks like they're imploding from within, huh? Antonio Brown, do you think he gets dealt?
Clearly, I think it's all. I think the run is over. I think the interesting thing they're going to have to come to grips with, and they're a very sound, as everyone knows, organization. They do things very slowly, almost on a glacier pace. But it's about done there. Brown's got to go. Roethlisberger's reaching the end. I wouldn't even be surprised if the coach is coming close to the end, although I think he'll probably be back for another year. But I think, you know what, Pittsburgh we've gotten very used to that group in Pittsburgh. They've run their course.
There are 8 teams that are looking for head coaches: Browns, Packers, Jets, Broncos, Dolphins, Buccaneers, Bengals, and Cardinals. So which opening is the most appealing, you think?
It's between Cleveland and the Jets because of the two quarterbacks. and amazingly, you say Jets because, wow, it's the Jets. You're always the second team in the market. You wonder about the stability of ownership, although it's not any financial instability. It's just the ability to do the right thing. But right now, they are in that space. They are picking high in the draft. They're $90 million under the cap. They have a franchise quarterback. They have a couple of really good young players on defense. They, with the right head coach, will be a perennial contender for the next 5 to 6 years. This is an incredibly important time, and I think they need to pick an experienced head coach. I think they need to pick a coach who there's no guesswork about. I think there's 3 or 4 of those guys on their list. I think they got to make sure and pick one of those guys. No guesswork, no rolling the dice with the Jets. They need an experienced hand.
Look into your crystal ball. Who's the guy? Who do they hire?
I don't know which guy, but I will say this. It'll be a guy that has coached in the league recently and who has an offensive bent. So I think that, and I think they're looking at a lot of guys like that. Arians, McCarthy, Gase, guys like that.
On the most attractive job, I thought you'd say either the Browns or the Packers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has still got 4 years left or so.
I don't think the Packers is. I don't think the Packers is as attractive long term, because I think it is very short term. But I think you're talking about just the length of Rodgers' career, and that's why what I would do in Green Bay is if they went after Fitzgerald, he didn't want to leave Northwestern. They may go after Josh McDaniel. The bottom line is they should hire the guy Rodgers wants. If Rodgers wants Philbin, get him the staff he wants, get him the quarterback coach he wants, and let him finish his career that way. It's all about Rodgers right now. But the bottom line is that means you're going to make a change again. So I would think that the Packers, who usually want to hire a guy for the long term, they want to look and hire a guy for the very long term. But I think this time they might say, let's get a guy that Rodgers is happy with. Let's worry about the rest of his career. Then we'll worry about retooling. And I think they might go in that direction.
Which of those 8 jobs would you absolutely not want?
Arizona, I wouldn't want.
Bengals?
I would never want I wouldn't even interview for the Bengal job. Their ownership is so cheap. Family-run businesses where the patriarch was a football guy, Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati especially, where you had Paul Brown, where you had Papa George. Those franchises are extremely cheap. And the bottom line is I wouldn't go near Cincinnati ever, because they are the cheapest organization in all of football. Yeah, it's very hard to win with them always cutting corners.
All right, one more time with this hardwood duo, Matt LaMarca of the Action Network and DK Live's Pierce Dietrich, who looks ready now.
Pierce, before we get to Tears of Joy, is there any late-breaking lineup or injury news that you're keeping a close eye on?
Good question.
And, people at home should be aware of before lineup lock?
Well, I'm looking at 2 things. One, we don't know yet, and that's Kyle Kuzma. Is he going to play or not? And we're probably going to have to wait. I am seeing now that Miles Turner, and I can't completely verify this, but he's going to start tonight, so that kind of affects whether you're going to play Sabonis tonight. It looks like Miles Turner is going to try to get through the game. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play, but I think Kuzma is the big key tonight.
Okay.
LaMarca, anything to add to that?
Yeah, Kuzma's the big one. I mean, Kelly and Kuzma were the 2, or I'm sorry, Turner and Kuzma were the 2 that I was really monitoring. Turner is going to play, as Pierce said. If Kuzma's out, Ingram becomes really appealing. Brandon Ingram, he's seen a usage bump of over 7% with Kuzma, LeBron, and Rondo all off the court. So I think that's really the big one that I'm monitoring for that we haven't already received confirmation on.
All right, to my bros in the back, let's roll the Tears of Joy open. Action, Matt, who was your top choice in Tier 5?
Tier 5, I am going with Lou Williams. He's been on a roll recently, scoring at least 36 DraftKings points, I believe, in 4 of his past 5 games. We know he's the highest usage player on the Clippers. His playing time has come up, and he's in an excellent spot today against Phoenix. They have allowed the 3rd most points per 100 possessions this season. So I think that Williams is primed to take advantage of them.
All right. Who you got, Pierce?
Well, this kind of hinges on the Kuzma news, but even if we don't know if Kuzma's playing or not, Ingram's been playing well without LeBron James. So I like Brandon Ingram a lot. If Kuzma plays, then maybe I go with Hassan Whiteside as more of a GP. He really could smash against Washington, who doesn't really have much front court at the moment. But for me, it's Ingram, regardless of Kuzma.
All right, Pierce, let's make our way to tier 6. Who are you taking?
Again, it hinges on the Kuzma news, but I like Noah Vonleh. Again, against a thin Lakers team who's already short a lot of people. Vonleh's been playing well. The rebounds are going to be there. It's just the issue of can he get the points, and if Kyle Kuzma's not playing, then I think that's going to work out for Noah Vonleh in what seems to be a pretty terrible tier.
La Marca.
I like Jason Tatum. I'm kind of banking on him with no Kyrie Irving tonight, with no Marcus Morris tonight. He's been awful shooting the ball over his past 4 games, but we know he's a gifted scorer. I expect some extra opportunities tonight, and I'm expecting him to eventually start making shots again, which is something he did for basically his entire rookie season. So,
Pierce, it's not a terrible tier. It's just not as strong as others. It's the tier of the working man. But why don't you go ahead and give us your lock for tonight's slate, bud?
Give me Karl Tony Towns. He's pretty much got to carry his team tonight. He's the only healthy body. He's going to do it all in a pretty decent matchup. I know the Magic have been playing better defense, but I don't buy that Vucevic is the greatest defender of all time now. And I think Towns is really the best play on the slate, especially point per dollar wise.
Maddie, the people at home need your slate-approved pick.
I'm actually going the exact opposite direction. My slate-approved pick is fade Karl Anthony Towns tonight. If you look at what he's done recently, he's been fantastic. But he's done that with Jeff Teague and Derrick Rose out of the lineup, playing with a guy like Tyus Jones who loves to distribute the basketball. If Teague and Rose are both available to play tonight, and it's sounding like that could be the case, I'm expecting a lower usage rate. His salary has come up quite a bit. So I think he's going to be the highest owned player on the slate with lower upside than we've seen from him. So I think this is a fade for me.
Okay, Pierce, would you care to rebuttal at all?
No, I mean, he's completely right. If Teague ends up playing or Rose ends up playing, it does change things a lot. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Wonderful. Good seeing you again, Pierce.
All right, guys, that'll do it for now. Until next time, gentlemen, Reed and Jeff return with their NFL Sunday Showdown picks right after this.
Wild Card Weekend has finally arrived. I'm Carolyn Azak, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash, previewing the Showdown contest between the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. This should be a close one as the AFC South rivals split the season series with the combined score of the games being 58-58. The two quarterbacks are the story here as both have battled back from significant injuries to have excellent 2018 campaigns. Watson will cost you $17,700 to captain in Saturday's Showdown, while Luck will save you some money at $17,100. Expect both teams to throw the ball in this one as they combine for 181 pass attempts in their 2 regular season meetings. We'll give Watson the edge at home as Luck is 4-4 on the road with twice as many interceptions in visiting stadiums. Since the start of Week 7, Watson has thrown 17 touchdowns in just 2 interceptions and has not been picked off since the middle of November. Add a healthy DeAndre Hopkins to the mix, and Watson seems like a sure bet to put up the points in this showdown. We'll see if this translates to a win for Houston, but either way, this has all the makings of a classic.
All right, we are so close to the weekend, but before we are officially there, how about one more dose of Reed and Jeff?
Wow. It's not like we really have a choice here. Just kidding.
Someone's
just
a little chilly?
kidding.
Okay.
Guys, we're talking Showdown picks for
Interesting.
Sunday's NFL wildcard slate. Let me talk.
Okay, what? I just didn't know if you saw
Be
Jeff.
quiet.
Said
And I know we talked about this on Wednesday, but at the time we did not have prices. So now that you've seen the actual contest, who is your captain pick for Sunday's Chargers-Ravens game, Reed?
Yeah, if it's not Jeff's beanie, because I really like that.
I do too.
It's going to be Keenan Allen. I initially liked the Ravens defense if you want a cheap option at that captain spot. But the Ravens put up 20 DK fantasy points against the Chargers. I don't think they're going to be able to do that again, but I do like Keenan Allen in this spot. We talked about it a little bit earlier. this week, averaging about, or the Ravens are averaging about 60 yards given up to wide receiver ones, is about league average, which is kind of surprising. But Keenan Allen, he needs to be the guy targeted in this game along with Melvin Gordon. The Ravens are giving up about 20 targets per game. And if Allen gets around 40%, right, we talked about this, 8 targets, he's averaged over 100 yards when he's got 8+ targets. You like that. A little contrarian, right, because you don't want to play against that Ravens pass defense, but I do like Allen in this spot.
Who are you going to captain, Jeff?
Hey, it's Prison Jeff here to give you some showdown advice. In prison, we didn't get to play showdown contests. I'm just kidding. But, I mean, look, Keenan Allen's fine. It all depends on which way you think this game is going to go, right? I like the Ravens. And if you like the Ravens, all the scoring is probably going to come through Lamar Jackson. He's either going to rush for a bunch of touchdowns or throw. His floor has been great. I mean, 27 points, obviously, his last time out, 2 rushing touchdowns. It's hard for me to see a scenario where Jackson doesn't have a decent day. If he's behind, he's going to throw more. If they're in front, it's because he probably is rushing 25 times. So I think Lamar Jackson in this spot is, I don't want to say he's foolproof, but he's kind of foolproof. So play him in the captain's spot.
Prison Jeff, what was the worst part about prison?
Don't answer that.
The worst part? No,
don't answer that.
You know what? We're almost done with the show. I also really like my job, so yeah, don't answer that. But Prison Jeff, while you're here, different question. How about a value pick in this contest?
You know, Emerson, in prison, we didn't get to pick values, but I'm going to give you one anyways. And now I can't remember because I'm talking like an idiot. Okay, so it was Justin Tucker. I mean, again, the style of game that you're expecting here, it's probably the Ravens are favored. They're going to go conservative, run the ball a lot. John Harbaugh likes to kick field goals. Justin Tucker is super accurate. He's got distance. They'll give him a chance from 55. It's at home. They're not scared to rush him out. So you're expecting like a 23-20 type of game. Justin Tucker probably kicked 3 or 4 field goals. So in this style of game, this style of matchup, I really like Tucker. One other one, Travis Benjamin. If you want to go for the home run play in a GPP, that's the kind of guy the Chargers are going to need to win. Like a long Travis Benjamin touchdown, in my opinion. So he makes some sense, but way more boomer bust.
Yeah, by the way, Justin Tucker named first team All-Pro today. Reed, value play in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be Kenneth Dixon at 5,800. Dixon is, like, he's averaging 42.6%, 43% of the snaps. And he's the guy, he's really the most talented back in that backfield, really. And Gus Edwards, his attempts obviously have gone down since Dixon has come back. And he really is a guy that, to Jeff's point, when Lamar Jackson is playing well, it's with Kenneth Dixon on the field. So you like him. And obviously the Chargers, 4th most receptions and 4th most targets. And so you might think here, too, that even though Lamar Jackson and the Ravens don't pass to the backs, they might do that. There really isn't a lot of tape on Lamar Jackson passing to the back. I could see Kenneth Dixon getting a little bit more targets and not Ty Montgomery. So Kenneth Dixon.
Reed, give us your captain for the last game of the weekend, the Eagles at Chicago.
Yeah, it's Tariq Cohen in this spot. I mean, he is such an electric and dynamic player. We talked about it ad nauseum. Philadelphia is a bad defense to give up a ton of yards and receptions and DK fantasy points. You name it, 2 pass-catching running backs. Tariq Cohen is electric. He is number 1 in electric plays. The 7 points per play, which is number 3. So Tariq Cohen's in a smash spot. Even if he's only getting 50% of the snaps, even if he's not really out there as that workhorse, he can really set off a play. You don't really need a lot from him. So it's Tariq Cohen.
Jeff.
Prison Jeff. But,
Prison Jeff to you.
I talked about Tariq Cohen the other day. It's a really good spot for him. The only thing about him is he might be a little bit higher owned in tournaments, and I do think people are overlooking the Bears wide receiver core. Allen Robinson has played really well towards the end of the year. He's been a little bit banged up, but he's been seeing 8 or 9 targets a game. Very consistent, great matchup. I think that's the lower owned target I would go for a captain's play. Cohen's fine, though, too. Both definitely plays you should be looking at for the Bears.
All right, tough guy. How about value in this game?
Yeah, so, I mean, I definitely like coming back with some of the Philadelphia players. I mean, I think Nick Foles is going to keep this game close at the very least and put up some yardage. Big shock. I like Nick Foles. But Nelson Aguilar has really come along. He's basically leaped back over Golden Tate, kind of got his starting job back. He's been very productive with Nick Foles over his career, so why not take a shot there? And Dallas Goedert is kind of the home run play I like from this game. Again, I spoke to this, but like he's tied Zach Ertz in targets in 2 out of 3 games with Nick Foles. Lots of upside touchdown potential with Dallas Goedert.
All right, what about you, my little angel? Oh, you're never in trouble.
Oh man, Darren Sproles, never listening to the question at 4,800. To Jeff's point, Foles if he keeps it close, even if he doesn't, right, the game script for Darren Sproles, we saw it in Dallas and in Houston, respectively, both games that were sort of on the opposite ends of game script. And Darren Sproles had his highest snap count there. So I really like him in this spot. He has the most positive correlation with Nick Foles when he does well. And he's seen red zone targets. He's got a couple in the last couple of games. So Darren Sproles.
I just want to say sorry to people, too. We had the NASCAR guy on talking about basketball today. I don't know what happened there, but
listen, man, it's
not for prison. Yeah, sorry about Pierce.
Yeah, you're apologizing for Pierce, but it's all good. It was good to have him back, and it was nice of you to spend like your 30 minutes of free time today to join us on the show.
You gotta
there,
head back to lockup,
Jeff.
Prison Jeff. Thanks for joining us, though. That's a show.
Behave
folks.
yourself.
So we return as your lovely hosts for this show on Monday, same time and the same place.
And for all of you spectacular people in the tri-state area, catch us on SNY Sunday leading up to that 1 o'clock kickoff between the Chargers and the Ravens. Is Prison Jeff going to be on that show?
No.
Okay.
Yes.